Let's start the webinar. Good morning. Um, my name is Chaka Awal from the Embassy of Republic of Indonesia. Welcome to the webinar on Indonesia's Omnibus Law, or I should say Job Creation Law, an introduction to the latest Indonesia's investment regulation. Before we begin, can I kindly remind to invite participants to unmute themselves when talking and mute themselves when not talking, and kindly open the video. We also open for in the chat if you want to ask a question. Thank you for your kind attention. Now, let's start our webinar with the opening session. First, I would like to call Mr. Ida Bagus Made Bimantara, Director for European One Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic Indonesia, to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Director, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Chaka, Pak Seto, Ibu Dubes, Miss Laura Cavestri, Miss Alicia Mosca, Ibu Esti Andayani, of course, and Pak Nurul Ihwan, Mr. Ricardo Benusi. It is an honor for me here to speak at this event, this important event, the webinar on Indonesia's Omnibus Law. And first of all, good afternoon and good morning in Rome. And I would like to thank the Association of Italy, ASEAN, and also the Indonesian Embassy in Rome for organizing this today's webinar. And it is always a great pleasure for me to join Ibu Esti in this webinar aimed to discuss the Indonesian Omnibus Law that significantly improve Indonesian business climate. Let me also extend my sincere appreciation to all the speakers here today, and I bid you a warm welcome to participants of this virtual forum. Now, this webinar is very timely as we move towards the post-COVID-19 economic recovery, where Italy and Indonesia are working very hard to extract ourselves from this crisis. And we believe that investment and global trade plays a vital role in this effort of ours for economic recovery. And this is one of the main reasons why the Indonesian government have taken such an ambitious reform to make the economy more efficient and easier to do business. And central to this reform is the adoption of the Omnibus Law and the 49 implementing regulations last year. The law significantly improves the ease of doing business and investment in Indonesia by, among others, eliminating complex and redundant regulations, simplifying land acquisition processes, making labor regulations more flexible for businesses, simplifying business licensing processes, reforming tax regulations, enhancing the attractiveness of special economic zones, as well as improving the overall ease of doing business and easing the investment and ownership restrictions. These, of course, will be talked in more detail by the two speakers, our senior officials from the Office of the Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs and Investment and the Indonesian Investment Board. Ladies and gentlemen, Italy is a very important European partner for Indonesia. Italy is among the largest trading partners of Indonesia in the EU, importing significant quantity of Indonesian produced goods such as agricultural commodities and others. We are projecting a healthy growth going forward in terms of our bilateral trade and investments as our economies rebound and we begin to benefit from this structural reform that we have, and then from strengthening our trade and investment relations. Now the global geoeconomics and geopolitics is now shifting to Asia. Asia century, I think, is real and happening now. More than 50% of global GDP in terms of triple P are in Asia, and we are projected also to lead the economic recovery this year, and Southeast Asia will be front and center to attract international investments, trade, and tourism. And having said that, in the year 2020 alone, I think we have attracted a number of new investment into Indonesia. In that context, Indonesia is ready to welcome investors to come and experience the vast potentials and opportunities that we hold as Asia's economic powerhouse. And Indonesia has been part of the global supply chain and regional market production base and make easier in the framework of the ASEAN Economic Community, the ASEAN FTA scheme with Australia and New Zealand, and recently concluded RCEP that makes up about 30% of the world population and accounts about 30% of the global GDP. ASEAN has been the beacon in maintaining peace and stability in Southeast Asia, and this creates an enabling environment for the economic growth of the region and beyond. Now, despite the delicate challenges and potential conflict in Southeast Asia and the South China Sea, and also the US-China relationship, as well as the ongoing situation in Myanmar, the region, I can assure you, remains stable and conducive for economic cooperation. Many international institutions, such as the Fund for Peace, Marsh and McLean, have qualified the political risk of East Asia and India within a range of moderate risk to stable, and this includes Southeast Asia and Indonesia. And I'm sure that today's webinar will provide you with a more comprehensive and complete picture of the benefits of our newly adopted Omnibus Law that significantly improve the ease of doing business in Indonesia. And obviously, we need to convert or realize the opportunity into tangible result. This is what we should do in the coming years, and I trust that the private sector will become a front runner in strengthening bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Italy. I wish you all a fruitful virtual discussion. Thank you. Grazie mille.
Thank you so much, Pak Dir. Grazie mille. Now, may I give the floor or the screen to Ms. Laura Cavestri, journalist from Il Sole 24 Ore.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar, particularly interesting because I've been covering issues as export and import-export in the exchange trade business of Italy and many foreign countries. But honestly, I have to say that in this way, I take a sentence I'm reading at the moment in the chat, maybe a follower of our webinar, that the potential of economic exchange between Italy and Indonesia has never been understood in Italy. We don't know much, honestly, about Indonesia, the potential of the business, but as far as I know, as far as I read, it's a very interesting country in a sense that, of course, you have 270 million people. You are a big country. In spite of that, the interchange between Italy and Indonesia is only 3 billion euros. Italy exports chemical products, machines and machinery, waste and water treatment solutions in a percentage that's more or less 25-26%. And these are, the best, the first points of sectors that we share with Indonesia. On the other hand, Italy imports from Indonesia food, drink, tobacco, metals, textile, clothes, and leather. what do these data say to us? In my opinion, read, from the Italian point of view, particularly, is that Indonesia is not only a big market for consumers, for our, for the most famous Italian brand in the world that are in food, fashion, furniture, and so it's not a land for consumers, but can be, and above all is already, a partner, can be a partner for Italy. When I read that chemical products, machines and machineries, or waste and water treatment solutions are our, key exports, it means that there is transfer technology, know-how, a partnership with the best, Italian engineering and Indonesia. The problem maybe is that the quality of business is on the table, but on the other hand, the quantity of business can be, potentially grow again. And I hope, I think that the Omnibus Law that has been enacted by your president, if I correctly remember, the 2nd of November 2020, is a good opportunity if well explained and known by Italian companies, Italian entrepreneurs, to open a new era for the trade relations between our two countries, because it's a big law. You will explain us, and we will go more in depth in the second part of this webinar, trying to understand also different points of view, the foreign investors' point of view, all the key points these law include, and that's why I think that the potential of growth is still high, considering that more than 90% of Italian companies are small, medium, but more small than medium companies, entities, and so they need to be driven into a new country. So hearing that you will increase the ease of doing business is a very good news for Italian companies, and so I think it will be very, very, very interesting to go more in depth, and if the institutions, Italian and Indonesian institutions, Chamber of Commerce, political, local, economic institutions can work together to improve the relations, I think that we will see the results quite soon. So I don't want to steal more time to our speakers. I leave you the floor, and we will meet in the second part of this webinar for the introduction of Keynote and Painless. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Cavestri. Now, may I give the screen to Ms. Alessia Mosca, the Secretary General and Executive Vice President of Association of Italy ASEAN. Ms. Mosca, please.
Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm so pleased to be here to participate in this very important and very timely webinar. As already said, I really think that I would like to stress what already said before me. The awareness of the importance of Indonesia is still not so widespread in Italy, and we are so happy that we could work with the Indonesian embassy, with the Indonesian ambassador, and I take the opportunity to say hello to the ambassador, and to say that we are always very pleased to work together and to accomplish which is the mission for which the Association Italia ASEAN has been founded. The association, just to remind to all the participants, has been founded 6 years ago by Enrico Letta, and the idea was exactly what you just mentioned. The fact that the ASEAN region is more and more a central region for the entire world, and among the different countries, Indonesia, of course, is demonstrating the vitality of its economy, and the fact that you promoted and you presented this law is another sign of this vitality, another importance, centrality of the Indonesian economy worldwide. Other European countries are a little bit more aware of this importance. Germany is doing a lot in foster the relations, and for this reason, just to mention one, and for this reason, we as an association thought that it's so important to foster these relations, because it can be really mutual interesting for our economies, and it's really important that we promote the mutual knowledge and the awareness of what is going on. For this reason, I'm also so happy that today Laura Cavestri is here with us, because this need to be a joint effort, and it's important that also the media are aware, and the media help us to promote these informations and to make this discussion really a mainstream discussion, and not only discussions for people that are already aware of the importance of people that are already working in this relation. So it's really important to push also in this direction, and I hope that what we are doing today could help in this direction. Thank you very much. I stop here because I'm also very interested in knowing the details of the law, and so I really thank all the participants and all the speakers and everybody that helped in organizing this important webinar this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Muska. Now, may I give the screen to Her Excellency Esti Andayani, Ambassador of the Republic Indonesia to Italy. Ambassador, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Caka. Pak Septian Haryoseto, Deputy of Investment and Mining Affairs to the Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment, Ms. Alessia Mosca, Secretary General and Executive Vice President of Association Italy ASEAN, Bapak Nurul Ikhwan, Deputy Chairman for Investment Planning of Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, Mr. Ricardo Benusi, Head of European Business Development, Desan Shira and Associates, Ms. Laura Cavestri from Il Sole 24 Ore, Bapak Sade Bimantara, Director for European One Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I recognize also as a participant, Honorable Senator Francesco Giacobbe, participating this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen participants, buongiorno a tutti. Thank you very much for your time to be here in this webinar. With the latest enactment of Job Creation Law, or commonly known as Omnibus Law, invest in Indonesia has become more easier than ever. I believe this Omnibus Law will attract more interest from investors abroad, especially like Ms. Laura Cavestri said, from Italy. This webinar is specifically dedicated to Italian business. Italy is one of the main economic partners for Indonesia in Europe. Italy is the number 8 among European countries that invest in Indonesia. I believe this number still has not fulfilled its potentials. I heard issues from Italian business of the complexity of the bureaucracy in investing in Indonesia. Therefore, the latest Omnibus Law could be the answers that you are looking for to invest in Indonesia. On this discussion, we will directly hear from prominent figures who handles this Omnibus Law in Indonesia. So this is your opportunities for you to ask them as many as you can before you decide to invest in Indonesia. On top of that, this discussion will also provide several projects in Indonesia that are ready to invest, and I wish that all of you could follow up those projects. Of course, we thank you to the associations Italy ASEAN for the close cooperations. We also thank all the panelists for their contributions. Finally, I wish that this webinar will not be a one-off discussions that we will forget tomorrow. Instead, this will be a step closer in fostering economic relations between Indonesia and Italy, especially during this unprecedented time. So please do not hesitate to contact us at the embassy if you need any information or help to do business and invest in Indonesia. Once again, thank you very much for all of you participating in this webinar. Stay healthy for all of us. Thank you once again. Back to you, Mr. Chakta.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Now that concludes our opening session. May I now give the floor to Ms. Laura Cavestri to moderate the keynote speech and the panel session. Ms. Laura, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Chaka, very much for introducing me, and I thank you also Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia for her greetings or her opening. Okay, now after this first part, I think that all we are very curious to understand better what the Omnibus Law gives, what's inside, what are the details, so what's the law is focused on. So I ask Mr. Septian Hario Sato, Deputy of Investment and Mining Affairs, Coordinating Ministry for Maritime and Investment Affairs of Indonesia, to explain us what we all want to know. So the virtual screen is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Laura, for the introduction, and Her Excellency, our ambassador in Italy, Ibu Esti Andayani, Miss Alicia, Pak Nurul Ikhwan is a very good friend of mine, and been working together with several investment projects actually. So I think it's an honor for me to be invited in this webinar. Yeah. And when I see the invitation, I told my team that I definitely want to join the discussion. Yeah, because in my view, still a lot of our Omnibus Law is not still fully understand. Yeah, especially by the foreign investor that maybe doesn't have experience, especially doing business in Indonesia. And I think as our ambassador previously mentioned, the enactment of this law is in a very important period, because we have this COVID-19, which is in my view disrupting the economic growth, not only in Indonesia but also in many countries. Yeah. So I think with the current situation in Indonesia right now, Ms. Laura, Ms. Alicia, we have been very successful to manage our COVID. Yeah. We don't see any third wave in Indonesia. The vaccination progress is also very good. Maybe still not as high as Italy, but combining with the health protocol that we strictly implement in the country, I think we can monitor and we can control this COVID-19 situation, and this is allow us to create an economic recovery path that in my view is very important, yeah, for Indonesia. So let me begin my presentation. I think Ms. Laura, I will speak like maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then after that I'm very open if you want to have any questions and answer. Yeah. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my slide now. Okay, so I think despite we are having an increase in COVID-19 situation since January because of the Christmas holiday, year-end holiday, however, I think the economic recovery trends, what we see in February, this is the latest data that we have, but the recent data in March also start to coming up. And this is confirmed that we are still on a good track, of our economic recovery, and this is supported by definitely mainly our ability to control this COVID-19 situation. And if we see the global situation right now, in Europe, in India, in Philippines, we are monitoring as well that there is another wave of this COVID-19 situation, and the mutation that is, I think, many people worry about, because the latest mutation in India, it's increased the ability of the virus to spread faster, but also avoiding the antibody that is triggered by the vaccination, or even by the plasma convalescent, from the previous infection. So I think this is create uncertainty in the global economy. Although for some developed country like China, the latest economic growth is about 18.3%. So I think we can hope that economic recovery in China will drag up our economic recovery as well. And this is also what we expect from the US, from the Europe, and for other developed countries. So if you see here, actually our household consumption, government expenditure, export is actually progressing very, very well. And even though that this is still, especially the household consumption, still not as fast as what we expect, but given the numbers that we have on February, on March, I think we can expect that the recovery and the economic growth in the Q1 2021, I think, even though that it may be still negative, but it's not that too far from 0%. And what interesting is on the export. Indonesia, as mentioned by Ms. Laura before, Indonesia and Italy, I think the total trading size is about 3 billion euro, or I think 1.7 billion US dollar Indonesia export to Italy, and then we import from Italy about 1.5 billion US dollar. And if we see in the in ASEAN country, I think we are still behind Thailand, Singapore, and then Vietnam. So I think this show that I think we still have a very high potential to increase the trading size between Indonesia and Italy. We export a lot, I think, CPO, iron and steel, and Indonesia export some hydrocarbon materials, machinery. I think this is top imports product from Italy in Indonesia. What we see so far, I think Ms. Laura and Ms. Alicia, and I think this is very important. I think Indonesia can provide a competitive raw materials or semi-product that can be processed further in Italy, and so that with this competitive semi-product material or raw material, so you can make a very competitive product in Italy that you can export to any other countries in Europe. The key example is the iron and steel. Iron and steel product Indonesian export to Italy, I think, has been increased quite significant for the last 5 years. We export semi-product like HRC, CRC, the stainless steel slab, and then you process it further in Italy and creating an end product for the stainless steel. So I think this is something that, in my view, can be a good cooperation, and can increase the trading size significantly between Indonesia and Italy. We have the nickel, which is the key material and key ingredients for this stainless steel semi-product materials that we can process with a very competitive price in Indonesia and then export it to Italy. and then so that the industry in Italy can process it further into an end product. So I think this is an opportunity for us to increase our trading size. Well, talking about this Omnibus Law, I think the background for our Indonesian colleagues, I think we already know that Indonesia before is one of the most complex place to do a business. However, I think for the first term of the President Jokowi, we have been quite successful to increase, to simplify our business processing, so that we can increase our ease of doing business ranking from 120 something, if I don't remember, in 2014, 2015 into 73, if I'm not mistaken. So I think with this Omnibus Law, we expect that this ease of doing business ranking will increase further, so that it's easier for us, not only for the foreign investor, but also for domestic investor actually to invest and making money in Indonesia. I think importance in regulating business licensing. I think Indonesia, the challenges before too many permits, and following regulation, sometimes, not sometimes, quite in many occasions, there is an overlapping permit between local and national government. There is strong cartel and monopoly practices in strategic business sector. And also the last one is the corruption prevention culture that has not been developed as well in private sector. So with this Omnibus Law, we are trying to simplify the process. We are trying actually to avoid face-to-face meeting, so that all the processing of the permit and license can be done through electronic process, what we call it online single submission. I think my colleague Pak Nurul will later on explain this licensing, the e-licensing process that has been implemented in Indonesia. So in our view, business licensing is one of key changes in the Omnibus Law. So what we mean with the Omnibus Law? With Omnibus Law is that we make one law that actually revising 79 laws that is currently existing under our government regulation, so that we don't need to revise the law one by one, but we put all the 79 law revision into a one law. So I think this is simplifying the process itself, to change and then to make the business licensing permit easier. So there is 11 cluster that you can see here. The first one is simplification of doing business, investment requirement about manpower, is and protection of empowerment of small medium enterprises, ease of doing business, support for research and innovation, government administration of to support job creation, about sanctions, land procurement, central government investment, and is for the national strategic projects, facility for the national strategic project, and also for the economic zone. So I think this is the key changes in our Omnibus Law. I'll explain later on. I think the key, in my view, the key reform that is implemented by this Omnibus Law is what we call it the risk-based licensing. What is the risk-based licensing? So basically we make or simplify the business licensing process based on the risk of the business itself. So for example, if we categorize your business as a low risk, you just need to register your business into our online single submission, and then you can start the business. As simple as that. So you don't need to fill previously. There are several other permit and requirements that you need to fulfill. The second one, if you have a medium risk, we divided this one into two different categories: low to medium risk, which is in not only you need to register your business, but you need to make a declaration that basically your business has fulfilled the required standard, including the environmental standard. So the government doesn't need to check again whether actually you are actually fulfilling on that. So basically we trust you that you are making this declaration, so you fulfill the standard and the requirement from our law. However, later on the government can check if you are actually not or lying in your declaration, then we can directly revoke your business license. But if you have a medium to high risk, then you need to have a standard certification. So not only you make a declaration, but the government will conduct a due diligence here to verify your declaration. This is very important. And for a high risk, it's not only the registration, your business registration, but also the government license. And on this case, the environmental impact assessment document is very important, yeah, for you to start to get this license and the registration number. So I think this is one of the biggest reform in my view, and in Omnibus Law. Yeah. So we simplify the licensing process based on the risk from the business that you want to invest or you want to start. I'll give you an example. Yeah. If you want to open like a shop, yeah, or maybe a department store, yeah, in the middle of the small department store in the middle of the city, I think the business licensing process is simpler in terms of the environmental standard. Compare if you want to make this department store or the mall, yeah, on the river banks, yeah, close to the river. I think that will require a lot of environmental document check, yeah, before you can start the business. So it's not only the nature of the business, but also the location is also very important in assessing the risk of the business. So what is the comparison to the previous permit? Yeah, the previous permit. So right now, this is the step in the previous permit. So you need to get the environmental permit. You need to provide an environmental assessment document. You need to get the environmental approval, and then you can get the business permit. Right now, you need only to get the environmental approval in case you are categorized as a high risk business, and then your business permit can be issued. So what this means is that if you are violating environmental standard or environmental regulation, then this one, your business permit will be directly revoked. So you will need to stop your business immediately. In previous regulation, because there is a step, to get this business permit. There is a chance that if you are actually violating the environmental standard, then you have a time, to revise, to fix your environmental practices. In the meantime, your business is still continue. So that is not in the case anymore under this Omnibus Law. So the Omnibus Law, once you are violating the environmental standard, then your business permit will be revoked immediately. Then you have to stop your operation. So there is a, what you call it, yes, the government provide you with the simplification, but if you are violating the regulation, then the impact will be immediately your business has to be stopped. So this is an example of in the environment and the forestry sector. I think yeah, the risk-based implementation, achieving environmental agreement, and then what we achieve from this Omnibus Law in terms of the environmental standard is that we make a standard, yeah, for all over Indonesia that has to be followed by the head of the district, by the governor, in assessing the environmental assessment document from the company. Yeah. Previously, each provinces, each district can have their own standard, yeah, in assessing this environmental impact. So right now, the government will set the standard and principle that you have to follow, yeah, in assessing this environmental impact document. So I think this is very clear that we are not compromising our environmental standard, yeah, in issuing this Omnibus Law. So because previously there are a lot of criticism from the international investor that they are accusing us, relaxing our environmental standard and environmental requirement in the Omnibus Law. So I can say that is not in the case. So I think the most important things is the implementing regulation. You can have this law, but if you don't have this implementing regulation, it will be difficult to implement the law. So in November, December, the president give all the minister, yeah, within 3 months, to issue this implementing regulation. And right now we have 45 government regulation and 4 presidential regulation. Yeah, all the key chapter that is related with the environment, with the business licensing, investment climate actually has been issued. So on the licensing and business activity, actually there is a 17 government regulation has been issued. On the investment, there is 3 government regulation and 1 presidential regulation, including the positive investment list. On the employment and labor, this is very important as well, because actually we are revising our severance payment calculation, and make it to be competitive with our neighboring country. So this employment also has been issued, and the fiscal facility and the special economic zone also has been issued. So our special economic zone is one area, a status that we give to the one area, investment area, that we can give you the full benefit and full fiscal incentive provided by the government, starting from the tax holiday, from the exemption of the VAT, exemption of the import duty, easier regulation in terms of the issuing the permit and licenses. So this is very important regulation as well. The other one, in my view, is also the spatial planning, land and land rights, environment. This is also the important aspect of our investment and business licensing process. And I think one key reform as well that has been achieved by this Omnibus Law is that, previously, each district, each governor can issue their own local regulation, and this is contradict sometimes with the government regulation, in the central government. So right now, if the local government want to issue regulation related with the local taxes, retribution, and everything, it has to be approved first by the Minister of Finance. So that this will not create a burden for the investor that want to invest in one area, getting the burden of the local tax and retribution. So we want to make sure that there is a coherent synergy between the regulation in the central government as well as in the local government. The other reform that I think is very beautiful as well is that if the local government doesn't exercise their authority, for example, issuing permit and license within certain period of time, then the central government can take over and then issuing the permit for the investor. I think this is also one of very significant reform that we achieved in this Omnibus Law. So I think that's my remarks. I hope it could provide you with I understand this is a very short time of period, but I believe it can give you a big picture of our Omnibus Law. We are very happy, me and Pak Nurul, if you want to discuss further in detail, if you have any potential investment in Indonesia, I think Pak Nurul will help you to speed up, if you have interest in investment in Indonesia. So I think that's all from me, Ms. Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seto, for this very interesting, view of this very sophisticated and complex effort of innovation you made, because amending more than 75, if I correctly remember, current laws.
79, Miss Laura, 79.
79, sorry, 79 laws, and coordinating different sectors, different levels, and also a local and central level of government, as we know also in Italy, is not very easy. We have time for a couple of questions from the parterre, if our followers are interested in making some questions. We will have a Q&A section now with Mr. Seto, and then another one at the end after the painless introduction. And at the moment, can we have access to the present? Yes, a follower asked if it's possible for followers have access to the presentation slides.
Yes,
I think that
definitely.
they can be
I'll send it.
sharing.
Yeah, I'll send it to our embassy in Rome.
Okay, perfect. Okay, waiting for more, detailed questions about your speech. I have a quick questions about. First of all, it's very important, I think, that you stress the point of the environment because we know, and we as journalists, we know there has been also a debate, and some concern also, because when you have such a big reform, it's not easy to balance sometimes, development, economy, environment. And so it's normal that a part of public opinion can have some concern about what can happen in the future, so positive or negative effect that such a big reform can have. So and I thank you for the points you made about that. My question is more about the list of low, medium, and high risk based business. I want you to ask if there's a list of business that are in a category of low, medium, and high risk, and can these lists change, I don't know, every 5 years, year by year? I mean, it can be this part under reform, will, in a future, I mean, or they are a little bit rigid. So this I want you to ask if this structure of low, medium, high risk based business can be reviewed in the future.
Thank you very much, Ms. Laura. So I think the criteria has been set in the law, yeah. And what I mentioned to you, I think there is from the security perspective, from the environment perspective, and I think that has been set in the law. So it cannot be changed that easily, yeah, in the future. So I think this is will be the guidance, yeah, for this implementing regulation, setting a standard, yeah, a more detailed criteria to classify the business. And what I mentioned to you earlier, the location is also very important. If I set up a shop, a small shop, yeah, in the middle of the city, or I think that's permit or license is much more simpler. If, for example, I mentioned to you earlier, if I set up a shop, yeah, near on the river, yeah. So I think that's also part of this criteria. So it will not be that easily to change, yeah, because this is the law. And then if you want to change, you need to get the approval actually from the parliament, yeah. And I can tell you that's not an easy part, to have an agreement with the parliament. So so I think that's my answer to your questions, yeah. So I also have a questions here, Laura, if you don't mind, yeah, from Jacob, yeah, in the chat section, yeah, regarding the traceability and sustainability criteria. So I think if I can give you an example, yeah. It's not in the omnibus, but it's also in our existing regulation, yeah, before the omnibus law, yeah, for a wood, yeah, wood product, yeah. So we have this process, yeah, to make sure that the wood product or the furnitures that you are actually sell is actually not coming from the illegal deforestation activities. So that kind of process is actually already in place, yeah. And then I think within not that I think within maybe a month or two, the presidents will issue a presidential regulation regarding with the carbon emission mechanism, yeah. So I think this is very important for our sustainability process, especially to achieve our target in Paris Agreement, Laura. So in that regulation, it will dictate, the target to achieve this Paris Agreement, the carbon trading mechanism, the possibility for us actually also to enact, to implement the carbon tax and everything. So there is a set of policy to make sure that we can achieve this Paris Agreement in 2030. Yeah. So I think that's all, Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Seto, very much for your for your answer and for stressing all the points of this big reform. It's not only a law, it's really a big reform. Now I don't see any other specific questions, so I would give the screen to Mr. Nurul Ishwan. We will start quickly the second part of our webinar, and we start with the pain list. Mr. Nurul Ishwan is Deputy Chairman for Investment Planning Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, and we will talk even here about the potentiality of growth of this new law for our business. The screen is yours. Thank you.
Pak Deputi, mohon izin masih mute.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you. So thank you, Ms. Laura. So Her Excellency Ibu Esti Andayani, Ambassador of Indonesia in Rome, and then also my best friends and colleague, Bapak Seto, Deputy Coordinating Minister for Maritime and Investment, and also Pak Direktur Ide Bagus Bimantara, and Ms. Alicia Mosca, Secretary General from AIA, and Mr. Ricardo Benusi, Head of European Business Development, Desan Shira and Associations. Buongiorno and good afternoon for those who are from Indonesia. So this is very good timing for us to have this meeting after a very long time of being quiet because of this pandemic situations. Now we are fighting against it. So thank you for the Embassy of Indonesia and AIA and also for Il Sole 24 for having this event. So let me just say thanks to Pak Seto for having a very great explanations about the Omnibus Law or Job Creation Law that is already implemented in Indonesia, but we are still having some process in setting all of the things on the ground, and especially when it is related with the licensing. Because as a kind of brief information for you, it is not an easy way for us combining all the regulations that have been stipulated by different ministries in Indonesia. And it should be implemented in BKPM itself through the system that will be called by online single submissions risk-based approach. So this is the things that we have to do. Because in this case, we have to make some adjustment, not only about the process for this licensing as well, because this will include as well about the norm, standard, procedures, and criteria that will come from different ministries in Indonesia. So we don't want to make a kind of situations after the implementations of this, and we face some big problem for this. As for your information, this new system, OSS, will be implemented in June. So we are preparing it because it is already instructed by our president that in June it should be implemented. Because by this new system, we are going to have more, we have a simpler steps and also a better system for this. But I guess now the time for me is for sharing about investment matter for you after having very clear information coming from Deputy Seto. Now, I just would like to start by showing you some information for the performance of Italy for investment in Indonesia. And it is about performance of Italy in Indonesia for foreign direct investment for the year 2015 to 2020. So here in the slides, you could see that Italy is on the rank of 26 from all of foreign direct investment coming to Indonesia. And the value of investment of Italy in Indonesia is around 268 million US dollars. And for the year 2020 itself, the value was about 12.7 million US dollars. And for the rank of Italy in European countries from 2015 to 2020 is rank 8. So that's not that's still very good. And when we talk about other countries in, let's say, top 5 of the investors in Indonesia, it is Singapore on the first, and then the second is Japan, followed by China, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. But when we talk about Singapore, please bear in mind, the investments coming from Singapore, they are not originally 100% Singaporean companies, because as we are aware of, that many companies in the world, they have also the headquarters for the regions is in Singapore, then they do investment to Indonesia. From Singapore, this will be recorded statistically by BKPM as investment from Singapore. So it means that it could be also investment coming from Rome, from other part of Italy through Singapore to Indonesia. So just we record it as investment from Italy, from Singapore. And yes, on the next slide, I could show you also about the sectors. The top 10 sectors of investment from Italy to Indonesia from the same period. The first is trade and repair, and followed by rubber and plastic industry, hotel and restaurant, mining, other services, transportations, warehouse and telecommunications, housing, industrial estates, chemical and pharmaceutical industry, machineries, electricity, medical instruments, and others. So and also leather goods and footwear industry. So those are the 10 sectors that lead from the Italian investors. And excuse me. And I just would like also to share with you, this is the map of Indonesia, and from the investment of Italy to Indonesia. So we could let you know that mostly they are investing outside of Java, and the other, because we have 34 provinces in Indonesia, and the provinces that mostly Italian investing is in provinces in Java, and also Bali and Nusa Tenggara, and Sumatra, in Sulawesi, Papua, Maluku, and Kalimantan with this information. So for Java is having around 78.8% as well of the share, and then also followed by others in Bali and Nusa Tenggara and Nusa Tenggara. All right, and then also Sumatra, Sulawesi, and also Kalimantan. So those are the locations or destinations of your investment in Indonesia. And now the companies that they are investing in Indonesia from the same period as well. The biggest is Evoluzione Tires, that is the tire industry and also tire retrading, and Jogja Mangasa Iron, that's iron and sand mining, and Enel Green Power Optima Ratai, that's the geothermal power business. This will be also the future of Indonesia, opportunities of investment, because it has a very huge of deposit for this geothermal. So this will be the potentials for us in the future for the renewable energies that we have. And also Moyo Island Dive Center and Milepearl South Pacific, West Indies Trading, Unisor Indonesia, Utopia Global Indo, GD Indonesia, and Bang Bang Surf Camp. So those are the top 10 of investment from the companies of Italians. And now I just would like also to show you about investment strategy that we have in Indonesia. So in order, the next slide, in order to fight against the coronavirus, we are still having a very good effort that we are doing. We have four steps to facilitate investors, increasing investment realizations. The next slide, please, Mas Akbar. Yeah. So these are the steps that we have. So maintaining of the performance of investment in Indonesia, we would like to promote, convince and investors that Indonesia is a good place for investment. And also we assist the licensing services. It means that with the new system, we are going to do a kind of assistance. Even we have a kind of consultations in submissions, and we have also a kind of facilitations from other 8 of Indonesia investment promotion centers for the European countries. We cover this from our office in London. And also we assist in the financial closing. It means that including of looking for the alternative of getting funding from the national resources. And we also provide end-to-end service to investors that will collaborate among BKPM in its headquarters, and then also our IIPC office, and of course the embassy in Rome. And after that, the most important thing is this kind of services and facilitation should be implemented into the production stage, because without having this stage, then there will not be any tax that could be collected by the government. So it is a must for us to assist all the investment coming to Indonesia in a very right track and having a successful way on production stage. The next one. Yeah, this is also driving investment through additional value priority sectors. We would like to make a kind of priorities on these sectors. Those are that will be having a labor-intensive manufacturing and infrastructures, mining industry, and renewable energy as well. So those are the things. So mining industry and infrastructures is a very good one. And mining industry is also under a very good supervision of the Ministry of Coordinating Minister of Maritime and also Investment Affairs. Under Pak Seto as well. So these are very good. And also now I just would like to introduce you about the projects that is possible for you if you have a kind of interest for this, to look for this. Here are the informations about the solicited public-private partnership projects on the pipeline. They are still on the planning stage, which having around 2 projects there. And we have also the preparation stage there, that we have around 33 projects, and we have also a tenders process there, and under the procurement is having 2. Basically, those are the things that is still open for you to look for and also wait for the development on this until this will be ready on the stage of to be tendered. The rest is already on the constructions, and also operations stage. And for the unsolicited projects, we have also here under 2 under operations project, 2 under constructions project, and 19 on the progress of the projects. These are also having various projects that should be possible for you to look for the possibility of taking participations on this. And the detail of informations of this, we do have the soft copy of this.
There's a problem with the connection, maybe.
Really?
You okay? Yeah, we didn't hear you. So you had we had a problem with the connection, but please.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. This all the informations about solicited and unsolicited PPP projects on the pipeline, and then on the executions. We do have all the detailed informations. And you could just try to get this from our embassy, because we are going to share this with our embassy in Rome. So now, in order to facilitate all of this thing, we, the BKPM is also having a strategy in during COVID pandemic. So we do a kind of facilitating the potential for expansions of existing companies in Indonesia. And we do also facilitating constrained investment project, because many of investment that they have already get the license from Indonesia, in terms of implementations, they may find a kind of confusions or issues, and some also they are having problems. So we do a kind of debottlenecking for this kind of matter, so that you are going to be assisted by BKPM through passing through all of these kind matters. And also seeking new investment sources from the green investment. We do a kind of offering a kind of demand and supply of investment projects in Indonesia that will have a kind of matchmaking between the projects and also the investors. And we encourage also innovations, incentives for new investment companies and investment expansions companies in Indonesia. So we have a kind of special treatment for a very big investment, like let's say the one coming from Korea with 9.8 billion investment in Indonesia. We have a very special treatment on this. And also, we do have also a kind of instructions coming from the president with presidential instructions number 7, year 2019, that displaces BKPM as the front line of accelerations ease of doing business. So by having these regulations or instructions, BKPM has the right of doing a kind of coordinating of corrective measurements to improve ease of doing business rating for Indonesia. And we do a kind of also evaluations for the implementations of business licensing and investment facilities that could be executed and provided by ministries and institutions. And for this kind of facilities, especially for the financial facility incentive for fiscal incentive, BKPM has also the right of making a kind of decisions by coordinations with the Ministry of Finance. And we do facilitating and providing service to investors in managing their business licensing and providing investment facilities as well, and prepare norm standard procedure, as I did mention before, of business licensing and granting of investment facilities that is delegated by the ministries or by other institutions. And now, I just would like to show you that for whatever industries coming and do have a business in Indonesia, it is a must for them that they have to be inside of industrial estates. So you cannot have your business for the manufacturing outside of industrial estates. But in Indonesia, we have various forms of estates. So we have also 15 of special economic zones. For the special economic zones, it is designed specifically for certain main offline of businesses that will be granted with incentives, fiscally or non-fiscally. And also we have free trade zones in Indonesia that is also designed especially for exporting and processing of product inside of these special free trade zones, like the one in Bataan. And we have also industrial estates with amount around 180. This is the area where you have to be in, that you could run your business inside, and we have this 118. And we have also other bonded zones, and we have also bonded logistics center, and we have also the priority for the tourism actually, but we are not in the topic of discussing about the tourism, but we have Plan New Bali, that is also opportunities for you to do the investment in Indonesia. And I just could share with you the slide of Indonesia still becoming a priority destination for companies to do relocations. So the issue of the relocations of running business was started when we have a kind of problem of trade war between America and China. So because of that, some companies has already confirmed that they relocate their business. Mostly they're coming from China to Indonesia. So because they would like to take care of the problem they are facing for these situations. And we have also around 22 companies who are having kind of intentions to relocate to Indonesia. It means that it is not confirmed yet, but it is already around, let's say, 80% of them to be having a kind of relocations in Indonesia. And other that we compiled from media, from the embassy, from Indonesia Investment Promotion Centers, and our own research is around 120 companies. So it means that in total, for our data, we have around 162. I do hope that the companies from Italy could be also taking part on this. And we have also special new industry that took all the participations coming from state-owned enterprises and also the government that is located in Bataan. It is known as Bataan Integrated Industrial Park. We designed this industrial park specifically to be creating of Indonesian competitiveness in a better stage against other competitors like Vietnam, for example, because we just would like to have this with a very reasonable and very competitive price of the locations, but also it is very well integrated, and it has also the access not only to the toll road, it is also having the access to the port that will make the transportations, the logistics becoming not an issue or big problem for them. And we have also tax incentive on investment, and we have also a tax holiday, and we have also other facilities like super tax deductions tax that could be used by the investors in order to utilize of the cost that they spend for having a kind of human resource program, and then also research and development program. So those are the things I guess that I could share with you, because I have already spent my 15 minutes of my presentation. But if you have other questions, I'll be very happy to take some question answers. And we have also a very good representative here in IIPC London that is already joining with us, Mas Adit there. And we have also our embassy that will be open to help you in Italy for having kind of consultations and coordinations. Thank you. Back to you again, Ms. Laura Cavestri. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ishwan, very much for the presentation of all the potential business that could be in a near future between Italy and Indonesia, and also vibrant, plan of investments. I've seen there's a hand raised. But I think that if Mr. Brino can wait a little bit, I would give the opportunity to the second panelist, Mr. Riccardo Benussi, to make his presentation. Then at the end, I will give you with pleasure, the floor to make your questions and your comments. Okay, thank you, Mr. Are you staying with us with Mr. Ishwan for the second part of the Q&A?
Yes.
Thank you, and I give you the floor, the screen to Mr. Riccardo Benussi, which is Head of European Business Development, the Zanshir and Associates. He's a long curriculum and experience in driving not only Italian but also European companies in Far East markets and Indonesia. And please, you can. The screen is yours.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as a panelist today for the discussions, and a very exciting time for businesses, but also for government to introduce such sweeping, as we call them, novelties that also touch upon foreign direct investors. Excuse me, I'm seeing subtitles. Okay, good. Well, let's see if I say this correctly. Terima kasih telah mengundang saya. This is probably going to be the reason why you kick me out of the presentation now, but that should mean thank you for having me. Thank you, Mrs. Bagus, Mr. Bagus Made Bimantara, Your Excellency Esti Andayani, thank you very much. Alessia Mosca, thank you again. Mrs. Laura Cavestri, Setyan Harold Seto, Nurul, each one who just spoke before me. And I will deliver a speech about what the Omnibus Law, what kind of effect it has on small and medium enterprises, or the FDI, which is foreign direct investment, which is the core of our business. Without further ado, as we say in these occasions, let me first do some right and introduce my company. For almost 30 years, we have been supporting investors in their foreign direct investment into Asia only, with strategy and implementation supported by more than 300 in-house legal, accounting, tax, HR professionals. So our practice is based on our founding partners' passion for Asia, for which is self-explanatory, considering that only 5 offices out of our 25 offices are in Asia, and 11 countries are the Asian countries that we cover either directly or through direct and exclusive partnerships. So 40% of our clients are Europe-based, and that is probably a reason also why I'm talking to you from Munich, where we have just recently established our legal presence to be closer to partners and clients, as you may understand. So the footprint in Asia is quite strong. Since 1992, we have been setting up offices in Asia, only 13 in China, only 2 and 3 in Vietnam, and 2 in India, now in Indonesia, also with the second office in Bataan. We obviously cover Jakarta and more in the ASEAN region, such as in Singapore, and definitely also in Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines. Now, Traditionally, a small medium enterprise or investor looking for advisory and support on the strategy, but also on the implementation, would usually go to several providers. And that is a fair choice, but it's a multi-provider approach, which may be a little bit more time consuming, a little bit more costly. But since the foundation of our firm, we have decided to use a blended approach. This means using all of the inside and internal professionals to deliver a holistic approach, a blended and elbow-to-elbow approach, so we can remain more flexible and closer and have a quicker understanding of what the investor would like to know. Let's get to brass tack. So discussed today will be in my last panel, why Indonesia as a target or a destination for investment at all. Many of us know ASEAN and Indonesia very well. Many are maybe first comers, but it will be very interesting to line out and to put in the spotlight some of the important features of this country and this economy. The trade with Italy, setting up a presence in Indonesia, tax implications doing business in Indonesia, and a quick glance at the implications of being and dealing with a country such as Indonesia, which is in the midst of the RCEP because it's also an ASEAN member. That is probably one topic that we didn't touch upon today. So why Indonesia at all? So democratic Indonesia is today a regional power, as we know, and an increasingly important player for the economies in Southeast Asia and the world, in the Asian mega region, as many define it. Especially, it is a multilateral fora, such as it joins the United Nations and the G20, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, and the East Asia Summit as well. It plays the role of the engine of the regional integration through ASEAN that was set up in 1967, whose secretariat is based in Jakarta. And maybe in the next foreseeable future, the plans of Widodo will be realized of moving the capital from Jakarta to east and northeast Kalimantan. Maybe you can discuss this later, but it's just a detail. Indonesia was also a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council in 2019 and 20. In 2021, it succeeded Italy, what a coincidence, in the presidency of the G20. So despite the slowdown due to the virus, probably, as I was saying, the plans for moving the capital from Jakarta to the regions of East Kalimantan will probably be realized. But let's go to why Indonesia at all. Some facts and some figures. It is the 15th largest economy worldwide by GDP. It has a very attractive young median age. That means that the investors will be able to access a young workforce, and it is the 4th largest world economy, probably by 2050. This is one of the main goals of the Indonesian economy and the government. Within ASEAN, the 10 countries of ASEAN, it is the largest of all economies, and more than 37% of its output, of ASEAN's output, is from Indonesia, a quite significant amount, and more than 40% of ASEAN's population, namely 272 million people, resides and lives in Indonesia. The World Bank, in its ease of doing business, has ranked Indonesia 73rd position. It is improving year on year. Let's remember that World Bank's ranking is a cluster of particular requirements that are analyzed, so it may not always be exactly corresponding to what we think is easy or difficult to do business with in Indonesia, but it is definitely an indicator. And for the FDI, foreign direct investment, regarding the foreign direct investment, the Omnibus Law or the job creation law has several good features, several very attractive features. Some of them are going to be discussed in the next few slides. So regarding figures, I've seen several. So my first comment would be about import statistics and export statistics, that many of this data that we've seen today maybe should be blended and we should take an average. But what I could see from several sources, also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Italy, these are the top 5 sectors receiving investment in Indonesia and top 5 countries investing into Indonesia. So let's see just a couple per pie chart. So definitely electricity, everything that has to do with electricity, gas, and water supply is being invested into, is being received in Indonesia. Transportation, warehousing, and telecom is the second largest pie of the chart. The top 5 countries investing into the country are Singapore and China and Japan, but this is a little bit farther from Europe. Let's see other top global players that are importing to Indonesia and are export partners. So the top 5 import partners are China, Singapore, Japan, Thailand, and the US. And the top 5 export partners are, again, China, US, Japan, Singapore, and India. Where is Italy in all of this? Italy ranks 19th as import partner and 18th as export partner. If we look at January 2021, which is very, very close to today, Italy is the 20th in position. So some data here has to be analyzed, but in general, among the top 5 European exporters to Indonesia and the percentage of national total exports, Italy ranks 2nd. This means that 1.1% of Italian exports go to Indonesia. It is a considerable figure, but also could be growing, and we hope that the Omnibus Law will favor this. Now, top 5 by imports by product. I mean, so as we've said today, and many times, machinery and electrical machinery and equipment are those that are being received by Indonesia. So this means that there is a need to improve and upgrade their current infrastructure. And what do they export mostly, globally speaking? Mineral fuels, including oil and animal and vegetable fats and oils and waxes and other components in the machinery and equipment sector. Now, going to the Italian exports sector, which is concerns our meeting today, or part of the meeting, or the reason is what Mrs. Cavestri has already said, and other speakers have already said. Most exports from Italy to Indonesia concern chemicals. Whether raw or not raw, but those are, along with machinery and waste management products, which I've already heard today, are the ones that are mainly exported to Indonesia. And coming from Indonesia to Italy, as also I heard today, is agri-produce and tobacco and metals and some textiles, raw materials in the textile segment. It's a lot of statistics. Let's get something a little bit more on the ground and to see what we have done in Italy in regards to policy and MOUs and agreements between the 2 countries. In January this year, there has been a signing of on agriculture cooperation that has put an emphasis on cultivation and agricultural mechanization and water management and agricultural education. I'm reading, but this is important because it says again that the country of Indonesia needs expertise, not only trade in goods, but also trade in service. Service in the construction area, in the knowledge, in the education area. These are all sectors that are extremely welcomed by the Indonesian economy and the legislator. In terms of Italians' foreign direct investments into the country, in the span between 2016 and 2019, we can see that 712 million euros has been the amount that has been injected into the country by whether Italian small or small medium enterprises or larger companies. Now, coming to what concerns our main focus from my side, what we focus on in our company is to help strategize and implement the instruments that are there for companies to set up a business in any country in Asia. So with regard to Indonesia, what are the options for an investor when they're looking at setting up an entity? Because setting up an entity must be a requirement to operate in the country. So we have a traditional foreign investment company, which is called a PTPMA, or we can there's a local Indonesian company that could be set up with no foreign participation. And then there's representative offices. I use the plural because there are at least 4, including the general type of representative office. Now, let's take a closer look. I apologize for a lot of text, but this is, I cannot do without. So if you look at the first column and the third column are those that probably are going to be more relevant for foreign investors. We'll see that the foreign invested company has a relatively low setup timeline. It is used to access the sectors that were open before the Omnibus Law and that are now in the priority investment list that is given and opened by the Omnibus Law itself. It guarantees a full or partial ownership depending on how open the sector is. And the only restrictions it has, again, are those that are which fall within the prohibited or limited industries. there is, when we talk about minimum capital to run the business, or working capital, or total investment, there we have a little bit of a difference with many other countries in Asia, probably in the whole world, where there's a minimum authorized capital, which has to be 10 billion Indonesian rupiahs, approximately 570,000 euros as minimum authorized capital. And the minimum paid up capital for this foreign invested type of entity should be approximately 140,000 euros. So this is quite a challenge for small and medium enterprises, of which Italy is extremely populated and made of. And that could be probably a suggestion that we could give in order to see whether this can be explained better by the Indonesian government, or if there are plans in alleviating the time in which, or the time span in which the paid up capital has to be effectively injected. The pros of having a foreign invested company is that obviously there's full ownership, and the cons are that, as I just mentioned, the capital requirements are quite sometimes prohibitive. So the reason behind this, and we'll see later in a quick comment slide, is whether the country of Indonesia wants to keep attracting MNCs, or only manufacturing businesses, which are a safe choice, or also wants to tap into that very diverse, very lively, and very niche and capable pool of SMEs from all over the world, and especially from Italy. When looking at the representative offices, or the KPPA, these are ways that are common to many other economies to tap into the market. Some countries will allow you to stay with a rep office indefinitely in the country, just renewing the license. Some others, like Indonesia, will put a time limit on the life of a rep office. But we'll see more about that in the following slide. Now, it takes 2 to 4 weeks roughly to set up a representative office. And what it can do is only market research and scouting for more business, and managing the expectations and liaising for and with the shareholder back at home. Definitely, it cannot generate any income activity. There cannot be any transactions that are made for services and product sales. There is no minimum capital required, which sounds like a very attractive proposition, but again, against all the other limitations that I've said before. And it is time-based. Now, I mentioned the types of representative offices. Unlike other countries, Indonesia, because of the time limitations and the specializations, affords 4 types. The general KPP, the RO for trading, KP3A, the one for construction, the BUJKA, and the one for oil and gas companies, which is a KPPA MIGAS, or MIGAS. So I've tried to condense the differences between these 4 types of representative offices, where aside from the general RO, where the only specificity is that it has 3 years validity, the KP3A is a rep office that can act as a buy and selling agent. But it doesn't sell or buy, it just is an agent on behalf. And it needs a special license, and it can set up anywhere, compared to the general RO KPPA, which has to set up in the province capital, in the capitals of the provinces, and has to be an official building, office building. And the KP3A can only last from between 2 months and 1 year. That's the shelf life. A BUJKA instead can partner with local companies and must prove to be a large company at home, has 3 years shelf life, and also has to adopt a special license. Let's remember that this one, BUJKA, is coming from the construction industry. And also one similarly for the MIGAS, for the oil and gas, has to prove to belong to one of those select industries, and has also 3 years of life or expectancy, and then special licenses apply. Now, this is a bit of a recall of what I just said before. It would be very interesting to hear more, or to see if there's something in the works for small and medium enterprises in order to access the market with a fully foreign-owned entity, and in terms of the capital, which for many reasons, as I said before, is a little bit of a limitation, but probably somebody else can later develop on this. In terms of operating the business, we need to take a look at the corporate income tax. What will the impact be on the business? So in the previously in 2019, corporate income tax, or CAT, was 25%. And then it went down in 2020, 2021 at the beginning of this year at 22%, and now finally from the end of this year it will be down to 20% of corporate income tax on all net taxable income. So this is quite attractive, an attractive proposition. Somebody called for even lower CIT, but we'll see if that can happen. Social Security, as in many other countries, it is related to work-related injury, death insurance, retirement, pension, and there are definitely more interesting social contributions, Social Security contributions in the Indonesian foreign direct investment management. So for VAT, value added tax, we'll see that there's a 10% rate that is fixed and no VAT on export of goods and services. About tax holidays, this is something that a couple of speakers touched upon earlier, although I have to say from my perspective, or from a company that is helping small and medium enterprises or any enterprise access a market, we have to let them know, that's for the strategy plan, if and when particular tax holidays apply. Now, if you want to read a couple of these examples from 1 to 6, you'll notice that only companies that can guarantee a very high capital investment within 6 million to 30 million, or even double those figures more, can enjoy a particularly high tax holiday in percentage of 50 all the way to 100% and spread across 5 years or 20 years of activity. Now, let's see if later we can hear from somebody who can tell us more about tax holidays that small and medium enterprises can also enjoy. But that also calls for a discussion on the capital. So the Omnibus Law, or also known as the Omnibus Law, and now officially the Job Creation Law. So I'm going to repeat myself because I think every panelist touched upon the making of the law, but just to give you a sense what prompted these sweeping changes for a country so big and so important in ASEAN and in Asia in general, is that the perception was that Indonesia was overly regulated. There has also been a very low or decreasing absorption of new workers every year, and the country wants to aim for Industry 4.0. So this needs a better absorption of workers and better regulation, so deregulation. And then the stagnation effect of the COVID-19 has also impacted the economy decisively, and everything also decided for the decreasing of the competitiveness of the country as a whole. Now, the Job Creation Law works as an accelerator to recovery and growth. The Job Creation Bill or law, or the Omnibus in general, points at specific sectors that are very important for us as a service provider. For example, the simplification of the FDI, ease of doing business, reforms in the employment or individual income tax as well, and the construction or opening up of many more economic zones than in the past. And this begs for an economic transformation, which also is in line with a national economy plan, which aims at growth, equity, security and safety, and competitiveness within the region and globally. And they all convey to the Indonesia Up, or Indonesia Maju 2045, which hopes to be a top 5, within the top 5 of the economies of the world, get out of the middle income trap, point at $7.4 trillion in GDP, and to eradicate poverty and become a country with a competitive workforce to offer.
Ricardo, excuse me. Can you hear me? Yes, the presentation is wonderful. I ask you if you can speed up a little bit because of leaving floor to the questions that are coming up. Thank you.
Sure. I'll do my best. The perception of time is different when somebody's speaking. So thank you for that. Just feel free to interrupt me again as soon as I'm taking too long. So. Just a couple of things here. The Regulation 10 of 2021 points at opening up to 100% the access to foreign investors in specific sectors. A few of these that could be interesting for people who are listening today are pharma, that goes from 85 to 100, medical clinics from 67 to 100, power plant companies from below 50% to 100, and the agricultural business from a very low 30% to 100% accessibility or foreign direct ownership. And that's what I wanted to say. We've talked about the negative list becoming a positive investment list from 350 sectors with limitations to 48 only today, which is an incredible improvement. And we obviously also touched upon the completely closed businesses and the priority ones that the government is pushing. I would like to say more about the tax or the DTAs that Indonesia has with the rest of the world. I'll just quickly hover over the free trade agreements that Indonesia has today with other countries. So it will be 12 notorious ones that we know of, plus the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, of which Indonesia is obviously a member because it is a member of ASEAN, but it indicates also that we should, as an investor from outside of Asia in general, keep in mind that trading in goods and services with Indonesia will also give us an enormous access to the rest of the countries that have subscribed for, under, or are signing for the RCEP, which has been negotiated very recently in November and started in 2012, which was a bit of a response to the TPP. It has some limitations, but definitely encouraging for everybody who's doing business with Southeast Asia and Asia in general. I don't know how I'm doing with time, Laura, but please feel free to stop me or push a little bit further.
Yeah, I think we are, because we have to close around 12 and we don't have much time. But I mean, in my opinion, in your presentation has been extremely, you know, completed about all the different aspects, and also to help most of you know Western investors to have a better idea not only of the country, of the potential of growth, but also the country in the framework of Asian countries, you know, and that's right. I have we don't see in the chat questions, but I see a couple of raised and raised. So I would leave. I would give, you know, the opportunity to make his question to Mr. Giovanni Brignone.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you can activate your perfect.
Yes,
Please.
can you hear me?
Yes, sure. The screen is yours.
Very good. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event, which I think is extremely important because it helps make Indonesia be more known to the Italian public and especially the Italian business community. This is something that we also noticed from here, that Italian companies do not know enough about Indonesia and about what this market can offer to them. At the same time, I would like to give my regards to all the friends and colleagues from the KEMLU, the Indonesian Embassy in Rome, the BKPM, and also the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs, and of course the Italy-ASEAN Association. I would like to make a few statements about what has been said until now, also from our perspective, because we are based in the country, so maybe we have probably a closer look at what happens here in the reality. First of all, I mean, the Italian government has taken a very firm and positive stance with regard to Indonesia and the whole of the ASEAN region. As maybe some of you know, Italy has become a development partner of ASEAN in September last year, and only 2 days ago we had the first joint committee, Italy-ASEAN, to pave the way to all the activities that will be implemented within the framework of this partnership. Indonesia, of course, is the main economy within ASEAN, and it's a country that presents many attractions to our entrepreneurs, although it is also a very, very complex market. So with regard to the bilateral relations, I would like to make maybe a couple of clarifications. We talked about trade. Trade in 2020 was about 2.86 billion euros, so a little bit lower than 2019, but this is obviously natural because of the COVID pandemic. We still have to remember, though, that Italy still runs quite a sizable trade deficit with Indonesia. It's over 700 million euros. So our expectation, of course, is that our trade flows increase over the next few years in both directions. But at the same time, I mean, we would like to close the gap, because right now we import definitely much more than we export to Indonesia. This is for many reasons, but also one of the main reasons is that the Indonesian market hasn't been so open until now. Efforts are being made in this direction, and we hope that with the eventual finalization of the CEPA negotiation between the European Union and Indonesia, trade will be more easy, and so there will be space for incrementing our exports to Indonesia as well as the imports, because of course we think that that must bring benefits to both countries. With regard to investment, the figures that have been presented by BKPM are actually underestimated, because they don't take into account the massive investments made by Italian companies in the oil and gas sector. We have a company like ENI that has an historical presence here in Indonesia and has massively invested in this country. So if you take into account these flows of investments, and also some others that haven't really been registered, for example, Tenaris, which is an international group of Italian origin, has invested in Indonesia in 2 factories for the production of steel pipes, and they are definitely an important investor in this country. So the picture in terms of Italian investment to the country is actually rosier than it seems from those figures. Having said that, we obviously welcome very much the introduction of the Omnibus Law on job creation, because we believe it responds to some of the issues that we have in many occasions noted and raised when it comes to doing business with Indonesia for foreign companies. It has a lot to do with the licensing procedures that will become easier. It has a lot to do with the job market regulations, which will become more flexible and more open. And of course, it has to do also with the tax regime. The new law introduces a more favorable tax regime for foreign companies. However, I also have to be very frank, and I have to say that we have seen in many occasions that in Indonesia there exists a gap between the spirit and the purpose of a specific piece of legislation and its actual implementation. So we hope that when it comes to the implementation of the new law, this will actually realize all of its potential, so that really Indonesia can become more attractive for foreign investments and more specifically Italian investments. At the same time, we feel that some issues that are not maybe directly addressed by this law should also be taken into consideration by Indonesian authorities when it comes to making Indonesia an easier place to do business. And I refer especially with some problems that we have encountered when it comes to the implementation of justice, when it comes also to the implementation of the tax regulations. For example, we have a case regarding an Italian company in a bonded zone that is having serious troubles in that respect. And we hope that together with the Indonesian authorities, we can solve these problems. Because at the same time, if we solve this problem, this can encourage other companies to come to Indonesia.
Mr. Brignone, it's very clear the point. I mean, that's this difference between, you know, the targets, you know, the spirit and the implementation of the situation. Would you mind if Mr. Ishwan maybe say something about that?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ishwan, do you want to say something about, you know, this gap that, you know, everything is very interesting, but from, you know, the Italian point of view, maybe there could be this as a challenge. What do you think about that? It's a mute. You have to activate.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We can't hear. I mean, I can't hear. I cannot hear.
Now?
Now,
Can
yes.
you?
Yes,
Okay.
of course, sure.
Okay, right, yes. Thank you. So thank you for the response for Mr. Giovanni Brignoni. And I guess, yes, when we talk about the amount that we have shown to all the participants, that was the amount of investment of Italy in Indonesia only for the period from 2015 to 2020, right? And I know that ENI has a very big investment. I did facilitate this company as well. The locations in close to Bataan, Bintan, Karimun area there. And it is huge company, a huge investment from ENI. Then it was started even earlier than 2015. And yes, as I did mention as well, that some companies that they come invest in Indonesia through Singapore, they do have also this value actually, but since the regime of the statistic recording in Indonesia is just make a kind of record only from where, which country, finally this investment comes to Indonesia. This information, the difference of record of this is happen for all the countries around the globe with Indonesia, because they have to have their own record about their outbound investment through various countries. But for this, I guess the thing I am also agree with Mr. Brignoni that the investment of Italia in Indonesia could be much more bigger than the number that is recorded by the KPM. So that's it. And also, when we talk about the problem that are faced by many investors, not only from Italy, we do recognize this thing as well. And thank you for giving some example in form of justice and also tax in the bonded zones. And now, since we have also the unit in under one deputy, that is Deputy for Investment Control, we do have of this kind of facilitations that we code by debottlenecking. So anything that you are facing in Indonesia when you run these investment realizations, please do come to our office and share this information. We are happy to do so, because by helping you in solving this problem, it is also a kind of promotions for us. And maybe it is just a kind of thing that is not recognized by many investors that they have already been investing in Indonesia. So besides having the contact with your consultant, with your law firm, please do also have a closer relations with BKPM, because we are currently and always be very, 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 very respectful and very responsive for this. And especially under the leadership of Mr. Bahlil Lahadalia, facilitating investment, debottlenecking is the priority among others. This is very prioritized because President asked him as well to help of realizing of investment coming to Indonesia by the existing company. So we are very open for this, and we would be very happy also to have some positive criticisms coming from you. We could sit together and try to solve this problem together as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richwan, and thank you also to Mr. Brignano. Francesco Giacobbe, you raised your hands. The last question and the last virtual screen is yours.
Grazie, dottoressa. Very last comment. I'm the Italian senator elected in Africa, Asia, and Oceania, and therefore the 1,500 Italians iscritti all'AIRE in Indonesia also vote for the election when for the Italian Parliament. I've got a special interest in Indonesia because I also live in Australia, so I'm very close to Indonesia. I think in my academic activity, I was a professor at university. I had lots of contacts with Indonesia directly, and I think there is a great potential, as I was saying in one of my comments. I think there is a great potential for improving economic exchanges. On one side, we can't forget that Italy is synonymous of quality and innovation. On the other side, there's a great market, consumers market in Indonesia that is still to be penetrated by Italian goods and services. But also there's a need of Indonesia to better use some of their resources by adding value. And Italy is great in adding value. So I think I can see that in addition to importing and exporting goods and services, there's a great area of business economic exchanges by exporting business models process by way of business investments and by way of joint ventures as well. However, there's one point that today possibly, but by the way, thank you very much for the initiative. It's great, very informative. I found it excellent in terms of gaining more information on a country that Italians are not very much aware of. There was one aspect that today was not really touched much, because I believe that successful economic exchanges involve trust. Trust is not created out of contracts. Trust is created by developing human relationships. Knowing each other leads to friendships, but also leads to long-lasting, trustful relationships. Now, the first step towards knowing each other and developing trust is understanding language, traditions, and culture. So I would like to invite, Italians are quite good in promoting language, tradition, and culture in the world, and possibly we are not doing as much in Indonesia, and we have to do much more in that regard. But it's also very important, that's the call I make on the Indonesian government, to invest in developing human relationships with Italy. I think it's very important. Having said this, on my return to Rome, at the moment I'm in a hotel quarantine in Sydney, just my family. On my return on Rome, I hope to keep on working with the Asian Association. You are doing a great job. Once again, my big commendation in developing relationships between Italy and this part of the world that everyone is aware of, but no one knows very much. So working with Asian Association and with the Indonesian embassy as well, to try to promote as much as possible knowledge of the two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giacobbe. Say hello to Australia also from us. We're all in Italy, and I think it's been a very interesting morning because we switch on a light and a very important new market with new opportunities. This was the last question, and if you have further details, you want to have further details, further questions, you want to understand how to improve your business, in the chat you can see, if you click the chat part, you can see the further details, the contacts, the email of our speakers, and people can help you and support your business, your questions, for any doubts. For all. I thank you very much, all the speakers. Obviously, Mr. Bimantara, Alessia Mosca, our guest, Her Excellency the Ambassador Andayani, Mr. Seto for the presentation, and of course our panelists, Mr. Ishwan and Mr. Benussi, for their clear, not only overview, but we went in depth of this new law, and it's how maybe you don't know how it was important for Italian investors to turn on the light on this new opportunity that I hope in the future they will be able to catch. What is clear is that small medium enterprises must keep open the borders, open their mind, and ask for help, for advice, and how to improve your business, because after pandemic we will need to improve our business to recover our GDP, and maybe this is a new way that's open. Thank you very much for all, and I hope you enjoy the webinar and you learn something more about in this morning. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Laura.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Laura. Terima kasih, Bu Dubes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Terima
Thank you
kasih
for
banyak.
everybody.
terima kasih banyak.
And Senator Jacobe, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for the
Sure
initiative.
time.
And thank you very much, Riccardo, for your very informative session as well on the Italian side. So,
Thank you,
look,
Senator.
Ambassador, we'll get in touch when I get back to Rome. Okay, thank you.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. And thank you, Ricardo.
Grazie
And
a lei.
Laura.
Thank you
Laura,
very
you
much.
are very
Thank you
good
very much.
moderator.
Grazie. Arrivederci.
Pak Nurul Ikhwan,
Ya,
selamat
matur nuwun, Bu.
malam.
Matur nuwun, Bu.
Selamat berbuka puasa.
Iya, insyaallah. Bu,
Sedikit
sebentar
lagi, 1 jam lagi.
Iya, Ibu.
See you soon, Nurul. I'll add you on LinkedIn. Yes, Nurul.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, Ricardo, please do so, yeah.
Grazie Riccardo, arrivederci, a presto,
Grazie,
ci
grazie a te,
risentiremo.
Grazie, sì, presto,
Ci
volentieri.
risentiremo. Bye bye.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was really a pleasure.
Yeah, let's keep in touch after this.
Of course, of course.
And also Ricardo. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Santo.
Terima kasih Pak Caka.
Terima kasih Pak.
Terima
Pak
kasih.
Koko, Pak Testa. Thank you Pak Ivo juga.
Oh, ada Pak Yakopo sama Pak Testa, Pak Ivo Guidi.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Dubes.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak.
Lebih
Very
jelas
interesting,
ya.
very well done, very interesting.
Yeah, and now you know how to do business in Indonesia, and you can promote all the company here to do business in Indonesia.
Sure. I know.
It was really interesting, but we must go in deep. We must study on it. I hope that we will receive all the slides, performing slides, in order to go in deep, and we can devolve to our stakeholders, because it's very technical, but it's very important.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Pak Testa.
Ibu Ambassador, Your Excellency. Thank you to all.